So welcome everyone. My name is Marcos. I am part of the project advocacy team here at Ringover. I am joined today by Bruna, who's also part of the team, and she's going to be answering all of your questions in the questions tab. So during the presentation, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask all of our questions. And if you don't have your answer by the end of the webinar, we're going to do a questions and answers session. So let's start our presentation. So why measure the performance of my team? So first of all, I'm going to check if my team is operational, if they are actually receiving phone calls, and if they are receiving phone calls, are they taking the phone calls? Are they answering the phone calls? Or are they missing phone calls? And even if they are missing the phone calls, are they processing those missed calls? Are they calling the client back? Are they sending an SMS to the client? You can check all of that to ensure that your team is operational. You can also check if they are productive. If they are a sales team, they need to do a lot of, they need to make a lot of outgoing calls. So you can set up, for instance, a goal of a number of outgoing calls that you need to do per day, and you can check per agent if each one of your agents were able to do to reach the goal of calling, I don't know, 20 clients per day. You can check that with the analytics, and you can also check if the outgoing calls they were successful or not. You can also, by analyzing the analytics, you can ensure that you have a smooth customer journey, so you can keep track of the customer journey in order to ensure that your client is following the right path in order to have a good relationship with your team, with your service. So how will Ringover help you to measure your team's performance? So we're going to have the pickup rate, we're going to have the missed calls rate as well, the average call duration per agent, and then you can compare that to the industry standards, the speed at which your agents will answer the calls. So you can check if they are leaving your clients waiting a bit too long before picking up the phone, and also the average waiting time before connecting to an agent. So we're going to go to the demonstration right now. So let me just share my screen and let me switch to English. We did the Spanish yesterday. Okay, so of course, this is a webinar for the supervisors. So you need to be either an admin or a supervisor. Of course, you're going to be the manager of your team because you want to keep track of the analytics. So when you are an admin, you're going to see this dashboard. So this is the admin dashboard. And here in the analytics, you can basically click here, go to call analytics, and this is what you're going to see. So first of all, let's take a look at the filters. We're going to take a look at the data a bit later in the webinar, but let's first take a look at the filters. So I can click here and I can really try to find only the calls that are important for my team, for my reports, for my analysis. So for instance, I can filter by call type. If we're talking about sales team, you're probably going to go for the outgoing calls. If we're talking about a support team, probably the answered and the missed calls, or the calls that went to voicemail. So it's up to you to choose the appropriate call type. Also the date, you can also set up which date range you want to analyze. Also have preset dates here. So it can be today, yesterday, the last 15 days. In my case, I want to have a lot of data, so I'm filtering by the last 15 weeks. And you can also, of course, specify specific date of begin and then date of end in order to filter your analytics. You don't need to actually change the time because let's think together. Here, we're talking about the beginning of the day, so January 5th. Here, we're talking about the end of the day, so April 23rd. So here, the beginning of the day is midnight, the end of the day is 11:59. So you don't need to change this because we're talking about, okay, we're going to start filtering in the beginning of this day and the end of this day. If you change this, or if you say like 10 a.m., this means that all of the calls that come before 10 a.m., they're not going to be taken into account for the analytics. So this is why you don't need to actually change the time. So yeah, this is, you don't actually need to change your time here. And for the preset dates, well, you can choose whatever you want. And you can also save your filters. By saving your filters, well, you're going to have access to this filter every time you connect, so you don't need to actually choose the same things over and over again. And also the advantage of saving the filters is that you can subscribe to the filter that you saved. So that means they're going to receive a report. So this report, it can be either a daily report, a weekly, or a monthly report. Of course, you need to filter by yesterday, last week, or last month. Otherwise, the subscribe, it's not going to work. So you're just going to receive in your email address image with the report. You can also filter by markers, so the calls that you mark as favorite are per country as well. If you are international companies such as Ringover, by contact. So if you're trying to look to find calls from a specific client, you can also look for the client here. So yeah, when it comes to the advanced filters, these are the filters that will help you to exclude all of the calls that are not interesting for you. So yeah, you can filter by entering over calls. So how does this work? You just click here once. When you click here once, you need to choose if you are going to see only this type of call or if you're going to exclude this type of call. So that means that you're going to see only internal calls or you don't want to see internal calls at all. This is very helpful because if you're trying to analyze your the behavior of your team uh, compared to like you want to analyze the behavior of your team when they are making calls to clients, you don't want to see internal calls, right? Because those calls are just calls between colleagues, so you don't want to see them. So you can use this filter to exclude internal calls. You can also exclude transfer calls if that's what you want. You can also do that for calls that went to voicemail. So all of these filters here, just click once, then you can exclude them. And let me just explain some of the filters that might not be clear. This filter here is for all of the calls where, do you know when you call an IVR, so an interactive voice response, you need to actually choose an option before talking to a human. So choose type 1 to talk to support, type 2 to talk to the sales team. So when you have a call and the client doesn't type anything in the IVR, this is this type of call right here. So calls where no keypad option was selected. And then you're going to have outgoing calls answered by machine. Machine here is basically the voicemail, calls received outside of working hours. And then all of the other ones are pretty much clear. And then we're going to have the duration type, also very helpful. If you want in your analytics, all of the calls where there were no conversation, maybe your clients, they were not available. It was a really short call that lasts for 30 seconds. Those calls, maybe you don't want to see them in your analytics as well. So you can also filter by duration. So you can click here, once again, exclude or show only this type. And then you can also change the duration. So you have the total call duration, total talk, time spent in queue, the duration of calls put on hold. You can filter by all of that. You will also be able to filter by transfer calls. So some clients, they don't care about the transfer calls. They consider that, well, even though there was a transfer, you have multiple calls taking into account in the analytics. But some clients, they consider that, well, I'm trying to join Bruna, but when I called, it was Santiago that answered the phone. And then I talked to Santiago and said, oh, I actually want to talk to Bruna. And then Santiago transferred the call to Bruna. In my analytics, I don't want to see Santiago's call because I was not trying to talk to Santiago. I was talk to Bruna. So I want to see only the call related to Bruna, related to the last client. So I can click here and I can choose last call is answered. So in this way, you're going to filter all of the transferred calls, the first call of the transfer. That was not really an important call because, well, the client was not trying to talk to the first person. The client was trying to talk to the last person. So you can filter by last call is answered. Okay, and then we're going to have the call tags. First, you can filter by call tags in order to find analytics about some specific calls related to the tags that you created in your account. You can also reset your analytics here. You can also filter by calls related to an interactive voice response, calls related to direct lines. So you can also filter by user groups or by specific user. And of course, you can personalize. So you can choose an IVR, a group, and a user. And then when you click on search, you're going to see all of your filters here. Then you can click here to change your filters and so on. And let me just show you something when you filter by IVR. So if I click here, click on search. When I filter by IVR, so I have my IVR right here. If I click here, I can actually see the whole architecture of my IVR. So I can see all of the branches, all of the services. So I can click here, can click here, can click here. So I can really adapt my filter to the data that I'm looking for. So for instance, if I want to see the analytics of the customer support, I can click here. And this is the analytics that I'm going to see. If I only want to see the analytics of the sales team, I'm going to click here and I'm going to see the analytics of the sales team. So this is how IVR filters work. Also, with the IVR filter, you're able to see the missed calls, the reasons for the missed calls. So you can see, for instance, we can miss on calls because the IVR was closed. Basically, no one was working because the user decided to hang up before the call arrived in the agent's number. So let's say you are in an IVR. So you're listening to the options. Type 1 to talk to the support, type 2 to talk to sales. If you decide that actually you don't want to talk to anyone, you change your mind and you hung up, this is where your call will fall into. This is the category into your call will fall because the client decided to hang up before ringing. Also, no keypad option selected. We already explained that. And then finally, you have the actual reason that you might be looking for as a manager, which is the no answer. The no answer calls. This means that he was ringing into the agent's number, but the agent did not respond to the phone. This is the only reason that is related to the agent. All of these are not the agent's fault. Okay, so let me just go back here. We're gonna have here the service level. So Bruna is answering you, Chris, but to see the reasons for the call. So the reasons for the call, they are only related to IVR. So you need to filter by an IVR. So click here. Either you use this filter right here, or you choose any IVR, let's say, and then you're gonna have this view. Because this is only for IVR calls. Because let's say your user missed a call, this is going to appear in your user's analytics. But in order to see this view, you need to actually choose the IVR option. So let's move on. So the service level, we have the advanced mode right here. So the advanced mode allows you to check the service level, including the processed missed calls. So your service level is basically impacted by the number of missed calls that you have. So if you have a lot of missed calls, you're going to have a bad service level. If you have a lot of answered calls, you're going to have a good service level. And if you want to include in the service level the processed missed calls, so for the service level, if you want to include the process missed calls, you can by clicking here, basically. So you're going to have access to the advanced mode. So you click here. And the process missed calls are basically calls that we missed, but we call the client back. So we've made the effort to call the client back. So this is why we can include these process missed calls in the service level. We also have the total calls. So no mystery here. We have outgoing, connected, not connected, incoming, answered, and missed calls. So outgoing calls, connected. Outgoing calls that were successful, not connected. These are the outgoing calls that your agents made, but they were not able to reach the target. You have the total call duration for outgoing and incoming, the total wait time, so how long are your clients waiting until someone pick up the phone. You have the maximum waiting time. In my case, it's 2 minutes. The average communication duration for incoming and outgoing. We have the maximum here. So this is the longest incoming call. This is the longest outgoing call. And then we're going to have the missed call overview. So we're going to have all of the calls that were not processed yet. So we need to call the client back. All of the calls that were processed. So that means that I was able to call the client back, and the not applicable. So why do we have this metric right here? This is for all of the calls that don't need to be processed. So let's say I missed a call from my colleague. It's an internal call. I don't care about processing this missed call because it was just an internal call. So I can just send a message to my colleague. I don't need to process internal calls. And also, if the client calls me with a masked number, I cannot call the client back, right? Because I don't know the number. So this is why we have the not applicable. So these are all the missed calls that we cannot treat, we cannot process. We have the process by channel. So in most cases, we're going to call the client back, but we can also process a call by sending an SMS to the client, an email, or to basically ignore that call because it was a spam call. We know the number. We don't really need to process this missed call. This is the average missed call processing time. Just going to switch my filter here. I'm going to actually filter by yesterday. So you can see that when you filter by 1 day, 1 week, you're going to see a good average here. But if you filter for a long period of time, of course, the average processing time is going to be longer because we're talking about a month or 2 months. But if you filter by like 1 day, you can actually see like how long your agents are taking to call the client back to process a missed call. Just go back here and filter for the last 10 weeks. We're going to also have the heat map. So the heat map is basically here to show you the peak activities of your company. So the darker is the color. So we have like a very dark red. Here we have a light red. So that means that I don't have a lot of calls. If it's a color very intense, that means that I have a lot of calls. So you can see the peak activities of your company. And it's actually separated by day of the week. So this can help you to try to schedule your team in a better way because you're going to see that, well, we're missing a lot of time between 11 and midday. So maybe I need all of my agents to be available during that time. And well, I'm not receiving a lot of time between 1 and 2. So maybe all of my agents, they should be on a break, or maybe between 4 and 5 is a good time to do some trainings or to do some tickets instead of taking phone calls. So this can actually help you to schedule your team to get better at your strategies. So you can see the total calls, you can see actually the missed calls, the answered, incoming, and outgoing calls, so you can actually play with the heat map. for the history. So we're gonna have the same information but shown in a different way. So you're gonna have access to a graphic that shows you also the peak activity. And actually, if you want to check the number of calls per hour of the day, this is where you should go. So you can see here, I have 1 to 2 p.m., I have 2 to 3 p.m. And if I hover over the graphic, I can see the actual numbers. So I can see how many calls I was receiving per each hour of the day. And you can also filter by month, week, day, and weekday. You can change the graphic, and you can also copy to share it in an email or a presentation. And last but not least, we're going to have the leaderboard. So the leaderboard is basically a ranking of your users based on the amount of calls. So you can actually check the total calls, but you can also check the missed calls. If you want to see who's missing a lot of calls, you can filter by missed calls. If you're a sales team and you want to check who's making the most outgoing calls, you can also check. So you're going to see actually the ranking of all of your users right here, and you can change the way to see it. Um, Chris, pay attention because also here, if you filter by a specific IVR, so let's say I'm going to filter by an IVR, I can see that my leaderboard is going to change as well. So I can see the filter by IVR, and I can also check by user. So if I click here, I can actually see all of the reasons for my users to be missing phone calls related to an IVR. Once again, here you need to filter by IVR, so this filter right here, and then you're going to see this information right here in your leaderboard. So you're going to see outgoing calls. So of course, these were the calls that the agents made, answered. This means that the agent was able to pick up the phone. Too late, the agent was not fast enough to pick up the phone, and somebody else pick up the phone instead of them. So this is when when you set up your IVR, you can set up a simultaneous call flow. So everyone is going to receive the call at the same time. In those cases, some people they're going to be faster than others. But this filter here is here to show you that the agent was at least trying to pick up the phone. He was not fast enough, basically. Call answer. In this case, the agent received the phone, but they did not try to answer, and then somebody else answered in their place. So this one here, they tried to pick up the phone, but somebody else was faster. This one here, they did not try to pick up the phone, and then somebody else picked up the phone in their place. This here means no one picked up the phone. The user rejected the phone. The user was already in a call, so not able to pick up the phone. The user was unavailable. He was also outside of the working hours and basically not connected. And you also have this one here. It's when you have a technical error, so it's not the user's fault either. So you can have access to all of this information here when it comes to calls related to an IVR. So it needs to be related to an IVR. And let me just come back here. I'm just going to show you. So when you set up your IVR, actually, so if I try to find my IVR here, if I go to my IVR, so let's say in my IVR, I have the greeting and I have the call recording announcement. These are the first steps that the user will see in my IVR. So I have a welcome message. So hello, welcome to Ringover. If the user decides to hang up in this step of the IVR, do I want to consider this call as a missed call or not? This is something that will impact your analytics as well, because it depends on your approach, where it depends on the company. Some companies, they consider that the IVR is a machine taking phone calls. So if the user was talking to the IVR, this is not a missed call because the user was like listening to the message, interacting with the machine. So I don't consider this as a missed call. Some companies, they will consider this as a missed call if the user decides to hang up in this step of the IVR because they did not talk to a human. Basically, they were talking to the IVR. They were interacting with the IVR, but they were not talking to a human. So I can consider this as a missed call. If the client decides to leave the call in this step, I consider this as a missed call. But of course, you're going to have more missed calls in your analytics. This is something that will impact your analytics. So you need to pay attention to that. And so we saw the call analytics, all of the other analytics. Once you understand these filters and the call analytics, all of the other ones, they seem pretty similar, and you can actually check all of them by yourself. Um, okay, so if you are a chat GPT user, you can actually, when you try to find new GPTs, you can actually look for a Ringover. So if you look for Ringover, you can start the chat with the Ringover, and then you're gonna. So you can start the chat with Ringover, and then you can ask, for instance, how do I build an IVR? So you can ask your questions, and any questions on the Ringover solution. It can also be about the license. It can also be about any sales related question. And the reason why this is a better way to ask questions about Ringover using ChatGPT is because you're going to have a template of an answer that will guide you to the articles that we have. So the answers are going to be way more reliable than if you use the normal chat in the chat GPT. So if you try to find the Ringover solution inside the chat GPT configuration, you're going to be able to start a conversation with the Ringover chat GPT, and then you're going to have this type of answer, which is way more reliable than the normal answer that you would have otherwise. Um, okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. And I'll see you next, maybe in our next webinar.